Good morning. Today I'm continuing my reading from my 2019 article, Waste in Popular Music Education, Rock's Problematic Metaphor and Instrument Making for Eco-Literacy. We're on page 49, Instrument Making. I use instrument making in a class I teach, Rudiments of Music. Making their own instrument provides students with an opportunity to explore various music elements such as melody, rhythm, texture, timbre, and form. I've come to believe that instrument making can be part of resisting waste more broadly. Research into the benefits of instrument making has been qualitative, beginning with Sadis Coleman's case studies in the early 20th century, and involving ethnography and autoethnography more recently. Sadis Coleman, 1927 and 1931, wrote extensively about her creative approach to music education. Her pedagogy began with simple instrument making. Her approach was considered an expression of Dewey's ideas, and it is interesting that the ideas of constructivism and construction are linked through the practice of instrument making. Coleman has had students take field trips to museums and into nature, used found sounds, and guided young students to compose their own symphony. She suggested making instruments in school expanded students' knowledge and appreciation, self-cultivation, improves student interest, fosters initiative, and interdisciplinary thinking. There seems to be a connection between her spiritually expressed concept of silence in nature and teaching for ecological consciousness. Through reduction of material waste, though reduction of material waste was not part of Coleman's expressed aims, it is easy to see that knowledge, interest, and initiative each help cultivate a non-waste metaphor view of the self. In more recent scholarship, Matthew Thibault and Julian Evoy describe instrument making as collaborative, and note that building ukuleles increased personal attachment to the instrument. Sorry, Matthew. Having put both hours into the construction of my ukulele, I now cringe at the thought of rock stars bashing their guitars into amps at the end of concerts. Someone put a lot of time and effort into making those instruments. This quote educes and rejects material waste that is characteristic of much rock music. It shows how the experience of instrument making may, by increasing knowledge and love for an instrument, can become an ethical act. Students who make instruments respect the work that goes into making instruments. In an ethnographic study of shakuhachi, again, sorry for the pronunciation, tradition in Japan, which begins with going outdoors to choose bamboo for instrument making, Koji Matsunobu described increased attachment to the instrument. Instrument making fostered a better understanding of acoustics, allowed students to explore the relationship between instruments and music, and increased cultural awareness. Further, he noted participants experienced increased connections to places and communities, increased creativity, and integration of ideas of the mind and body. This type of spiritual, place-conscious education is at the heart of ecoliterate music pedagogy. See my book, especially Chapter 5, Spiritual Praxis. And then autoethnography, considering pedagogical implications for making guitars, Clinton Randalls discussed learning how material variables contribute to the tonal characteristics of the guitar. He saw this as a part of adaptive and innovative challenge. All the components of a guitar, wood, pickups, electronics, etc., contribute to the overall sound. All of the enabling skills and the enabling conditions work together to contribute to the creative process. Important to making educators' instrument making augmented Randall's love for music making. This seems to connect Coleman's insights into instrument making, increasing student interest their seeking attitude. Both approaches put creativity as both improvisation and instrument making at the core of music education. As such, instrument making in popular music education can embed an ideal of constructivism in the music classroom, be spiritually uplifting, connect students to lived places beyond the school walls, help students realize and respect the work that goes into making an instrument and thus be reticent to discard them, increase cultural awareness, especially through the construction of non-Western instruments. And 6, increase students' knowledge of material and creative elements of musicking. In the next section, I will clarify how the 3 postmodern R's can provide an overarching ethical praxis for eco-literate music pedagogy. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Though the phrase the 3 R's has fallen out of fashion in education, the attempts to reduce curriculum to a narrow core do not seem to have fallen out of fashion at all. In contrast to curricular reduction, music education can, with some change, exemplify the postmodern R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Instrument making can help us be models for reduced consumption in our schools, and as we reduce and recycle equipment, we can do our part to resist waste. Educational philosopher Madhu Suri Prakash describes the global economy as wasteful and recommends teachers look to rooted cultures where local inventiveness and sustainable living are embodied. This reducing ethic for moral education can involve letting each classroom decide on purchases rather than making purchases at the district or state levels. A teacher might also consider how far components have traveled, in a process similar to a better-known concept, food miles. There are many opportunities for popular music educators to reuse equipment. We can begin by refusing to purchase equipment that was built-in obsolescence. This may begin with something as simple as asking your vendors how long a piece of equipment can be expected to work. For software, remain up to date. Vendors need to know long-lasting equipment is important to customers. You can also challenge yourself and anyone else involved in making purchases by asking, do I really need these? We can use our equipment and reuse it. And when in doubt, fix it and use it again. A new piece of junk isn't always better than the old one. Further, as we move toward more popular music in school, encourage local stores to, if they do not already, begin instrument rental programs similar to those in band and orchestra. Finally, it is important to recycle electronics. With 20 to 50 million metric tons disposed worldwide every year, e-waste, which represents only 2% of trash in U.S. landfills, contributes 70% of overall toxic waste. Many cities and towns sponsor electronics pickup days, and you can check the Call to Recycle website to learn how to recycle equipment properly. You can also learn to disassemble and recycle components using online resources such as Instructables. This may be most consistent with a rock ethic embracing DIY, do-it-yourself. Emerging in punk musical culture, a DIY ethic has been used to increase sustainability in such various fields as fashion design and environmental justice. We can return DIY to the anti-wasteful approach. We can return DIY to an anti-wasteful approach to popular music education. Don't allow yourself or your students to become obsolescent. Conclusion. Filmgoers know the toys in Toy Story 3 are fated to become garbage. This is why it is such a powerful film. As it is currently configured, our consumer society is more wasteful than it needs to be. Whether the toys spend a couple of decades in the attic or are torn apart by toddlers, all plastics seem to be made to be thrown away. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is evidence enough of that. But all hope isn't lost. Instrument making can be one way for music teachers and students to resist waste. Returning to Eliot and Silverman's idea of social relationships and values, in this essay, I suggest not only does instrument making reduce material waste, it also increases students' knowledge and interest, helps them see music as interdisciplinary and creative, builds attachment to an instrument, and increases personal and communal agency. Each of these factors can work together in a potent way. They can cultivate flourishing, well-being, and care. On a final note, music educator Vincent Bates challenges the glamorization of mass-produced consumables. He describes this type of waste as magnified, waste compounded many times over by reinforcing in the minds of children the unquestioned goodness and necessity of technological innovation. What a horrible thing it is for music educators to teach children that they need to produce more waste. In this paper, I argue that instrument making can resist the type of magnification Bates noted by placing in the hands of students, quite literally, the power to construct their worlds, rather than making them into passive consumers in a faceless, placeless, wasteful global economy. Students who have been taught that they are not waste, they are not passive, have a chance to challenge our wasteful society at every point. Through embodying the postmodern ours, we can challenge our taught desires for a level of consumption out of reach for and destructive to many people around the globe. In our field's move to incorporate popular musics, instrument making can help reduce waste, material and metaphorical, and can be a part of a truly ecological music education praxis. And that's all.